Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily Splatt, back on Australian land, and very glad to be back home, I suppose. Yes, no, it definitely does feel very much like being back to the normal now. Having left the UK, when did we leave? Sunday? Sunday morning we left, flew out of Manchester about 3 in the afternoon, landed in Perth about what time was it? It was 10 to 6 Monday afternoon, so a fair bit of travelling. It was about as unenjoyable as a plane flight normally is, but very glad to be back in the Australian, well, I would say sun, but it's very overcast today, and indeed there's a big storm that's just passed through the area, so we've had one day of very, very good sunshine in the 3 that we've been back so far, but I'm sure it'll pick up. It normally does. Anyway, back doing these as normal, and I'm just getting over the jet lag a bit now. First day where it sort of felt normal-ish again, and as usual, I'm going to fall back on football as a subject to talk about, because this whole week is just about spending time off and relaxing before going back to work next week. Now, I woke up this morning to the news that Manchester United, the team I support and am very fond of, as you may well know, were beaten 2-1 by Swiss side FC Basel in their final Champions League group stage match, which means that they don't qualify for the knockout stage. It's only the 3rd time this has happened in 17 years, so a fairly rare occurrence. And it's 6 years since it last happened, when they were knocked out by, I think it was Benfica, in the Champions League, and actually finished bottom of the group that year. So, obviously, it's a bad thing. When we saw the draw for the group, I was very happy with getting Benfica, Basel and Ottolo Galati. I thought that was a group that United should really have no trouble getting through. Benfica aside, who are fairly tricky opposition. I was wrong. In fact, everyone was wrong. Mostly for 2 things. 1, Basel turned out to actually be a much better team than people thought they were. But 2, Manchester United have severely underperformed in the Champions League this year. Trying to put the finger on what that might be, it could possibly be a level of complacency, particularly in the games against Basel. The first game against Basel were ended 3-3. It could also be that there are quite a few young players who've not really played too much at this level. You've got the likes of David De Gea, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Danny Welbeck, Tom Cleverley, all players that have come up into playing first-team football really only in the last 2 or 3 years, and obviously don't have the experience of these European games. That said, you have got lots of people in the United team who do, so I don't think that really works as a reason. A lack of clinical finishing, probably the main reason. I attended the Benfica game, as you would have seen in the videos a couple of weeks ago, and I thought United were very unlucky that day, but as unlucky as they were with the 2 goals they did concede, they were not clinical enough. It's that simple. And if you don't convert your chances, you're not going to win games. Now, as much as it's, not great finishing 3rd in a group behind Benfica and Basel, unlike the previous time in 2005, end of 2005, when they didn't make it into the knockout round of the Champions League, United actually finished 3rd this time, because thank goodness we can beat Ottolo Galati. And so that means Europa League football for Manchester United. Now, I have never seen Manchester United play in the Europa League or its equivalent. Being that I'm, but a young man in my early 20s, I can't think of... I'd have to look it up, quite simply. When was the last time they played in the 2nd European competition? And we're going to be joined by our dear neighbours, Manchester City. And I'm quite looking forward to Europa League football, because I think United could possibly win it. Obviously, they won't be coming up against the likes of Barcelona or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich this time round, but they'll be coming up against the likes of Victoria Pleasant or Rubin Kazan, that sort of thing. And I think I'd like to see how United go in the competition. And I'm also interested in seeing how City go and how seriously both sides take it, because Ferguson's already come out after the match and said that playing Europa League football is the penalty United are paying because they didn't beat Benfica or Basel on 2 attempts in both cases. I'm not sure going into it the mindset of it being a penalty is the right thing. Clearly it's not good enough. United should be competing for the Champions League trophy. That is what Sir Alex Ferguson would have put out there. He would quite like to win the competition a 3rd time before he bows out, and I think he'll be quite affected by this. It may spur him into action in the transfer market, but I don't think that's going to happen in January unless the injuries continue to mount up. Because United are currently missing Dimitar Berbatov, Javier Hernandez, Michael Owen, Fabio and Rafael da Silva, Tom Cleverley, Anderson, and now Nemanja Vidic, all through injury. So that's 8 people I can think off the top of my head, which isn't great. There are some of the younger players, which I've talked about after the Crystal Palace match, who could possibly come up and do a job. Maybe give Paul Pogba a go in that midfield. But we'll have to wait and see, particularly with the Vidic injury, how long term it is. And in a slightly sort of weird sort of looking into the future clairvoyant thing, my PlayStation 3 might have some sort of clairvoyance about it, because last night when I was a bit bored I turned on FIFA 12 and I set up Basel versus Manchester United with what the team lineups were probably going to be, given who was out injured or suspended for both sides. Now, in my version of the game on the PlayStation, it ended 0-0. That would have been enough for United to go through. But, somewhat spookily, Nemanja Vidic went off injured in the 45th minute in my game. He actually went off injured in the 44th from the Basel game. However, I merely concussed the virtual Nemanja Vidic, whereas real Nemanja Vidic looks like he could be out for some time with a bad knee problem, if it does turn out to be a bad knee problem. And I think that could be quite a bad blow for Manchester United this season, because he is an absolutely brilliant defender. As good as Phil Jones has been this season, as good as Chris Smalling has been, and as alright as Johnny Evans has been, I suppose, none of them are Nemanja Vidic. Even Rio Ferdinand isn't Nemanja Vidic, but that's the way it is. Anyway, but the one other thing that will come out of this is, of course, hilarious British newspaper headlines. I'm expecting Basel brush aside Manchester United, or Manchester United's game plan against Basel faulty. The two I'm thinking might come up. Or indeed you might end up with the Swiss side being called Barcelona, which they might be. I mean, they play in similar colours as well. But yes, there you go. The life of a football fan, even when it's a team like Manchester United, who have done so very well over the last couple of decades. It's it still has its downs, and as much as this is a down, Thursday night, Channel 5, come on people, I'm feeling more positive. I think certainly for a lot of the players in the United team, this will be a kick up the backside, a sign that socks need to be pulled up, and that they need to be much, much better, much more professional. And it's up to them now to prove that they can, and try and win something. They've still got the Europa League. They're in the FA Cup, although they are playing City in the 3rd round, so it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. And of course, they are still in the Premier League title race. It's early days yet, but yes, certainly interesting times await. Okay, that is all for today. Talk to you all tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.